Senator Scott, please.
Thank you, Chairman Reed. Admiral Follow, thank you for the conversation last week. As we all know, the fundamental problem in our hemisphere is Cuba. They're the root of all the instability in Latin America. They terrorize their own citizens, they steal from their own citizens, and they support dictators in Latin America, such as Maduro in Venezuela and Ortega in Nicaragua. How important is it in your role for the Cuban regime to not have resources, to do everything we can as a country to make sure that the Castro regime doesn't have the resources to terrorize their own citizens and be involved in these other countries?
In addition to the nefarious activity you cite, Senator, Cuba and Russia and China are actively engaged just miles from our home state. And it's concerning as we see that relationship going forward. So to the extent to which we can prevent those kind of relationships from developing and from Cuba enhancing its capabilities, it's very important. And one of our assets, one of our real strategic toeholds in that effort is our naval station at Guantanamo Bay.
Is it important that they don't have resources?
I think it's extremely important that we prevent the Cubans and their communists from doing what they're doing in Venezuela, where they're keeping Maduro in power and where they're undermining. We see them actively undermining free and fair elections and democracies across the hemisphere. So yes, Senator.
What's their involvement in Venezuela now, and are they part of provoking Venezuela's aggression against Guyana?
Cuba's Praetorian Guard keeps Maduro in power. They're there in the thousands. They own the intelligence service alongside Russia primarily, and Iran and China to a lesser extent. They're supporting, maintaining Maduro's defense systems and security forces. And undoubtedly that then gives Maduro the capacity and capability to rattle the saber and threaten the neighbors, and also, frankly, allows a safe haven for narco-traffickers and narco-terrorists, which is what Venezuela has become. It's hell for its citizens, and it's heaven for the terrorists.
So what can your command do to confront the reports of illegal shipping activity out of Venezuela?
We're actively involved with all our interagency partners to track that, learn as much as we can about it, and then provide that information to our diplomats who can call it out and come up with solutions that support the whole government efforts to shift Venezuela to democracy.
Have you or our government through sanctions been able to do much to stop the flow of oil from Venezuela to Cuba?
The pressure has worked. The Maduro regime has been denied resources, but in any of these things, they're very clever when you have no regard for rule of law and corruption fuels everything you do, and you're supported by nation-state actors like Russia and China. You can circumvent rules and laws, and they've been able to keep the flow up just enough to maintain their economy, particularly the regime's grip on that economy and its people on life support.
Can you talk a little bit about the humanitarian crisis both in Cuba and Venezuela as a result of the Castro and Maduro regimes?
Well, the United Nations Human Rights Report lays it out. The atrocities that the regime has committed on the people are beyond compare in this hemisphere, and have created the largest migrant crisis this hemisphere has ever seen. Some 5 million migrants that have swelled the services and of all the social services. It's why we deployed hospital ship Comfort twice in a year's period prior to the pandemic. It's a credit to Colombia and Brazil and other democracies that they've been able to handle it as effectively. I commend them. And similarly in Cuba, it's we've had past migrant crisis, and we have a mission set to prepare with Homeland Security for that. We've seen a slight uptick this year in migrants coming out of Cuba. We're watching it very closely, and undoubtedly, again, it's due to the brutal economic conditions and the repression that we see, and we study that intensely in our intelligence and information sharing efforts.
Thank you, Admiral Fowler. Thank you, Chairman.